Hi, in this video, we're going to look at this question here. Okay, so this question says that we first have to sketch this line. Okay, uh, 4x plus 8y minus 7 equals to 0. Okay, so to sketch a line, the first thing that we actually need to do is to rewrite it in the form of y equals to mx plus c. Okay, so that would be a good step because that actually helps us in the second part of the question. Okay, but let's do the first part first, where we have to sketch this line. Now to rewrite this equation, we just do some basic algebra. So we shift things around. Okay, so the 4x and 7 goes across and divided by 8, so negative half x plus 7 over 8. Now once we have this, we know that this is m, which is the gradient, and this is c, which is the y-intercept. Now how do I sketch this? Okay, so uh, let's sketch it over here. Okay, so let me draw the x and y axis first. Okay, so uh, now this is the uh, x-axis. Okay, this is the x-axis here, and this is the y-axis over here, and this y-intercept is 7 over 8. That means the coordinate of the y-intercept is 0, 7 over 8. Now 7 over 8 is less than 1, so I'll just put as this as 1. So we can say that the y-intercept is somewhere around here. Okay. Now this gradient here is a negative. It's a negative number. So we know that a negative gradient means the line is sloping downwards. Okay. So the slope of this waveform is going to be something like this. Okay, going downwards. But exactly where it's going to touch the x-axis, how do you find that out? When it touches the x-axis, we know that at that point of time y is 0. Okay, so what I need to do is to say let y be equals to 0. Okay, so this basically tells me where it touches the x-axis. Okay, and when I let y equals to 0, put back into this equation, so I get a negative half x plus 7 over 8 equals to 0. So half x equals to 7 over 8. 8x equals to 14. X is equals to 14 over 8, which is equals to 1.75. Okay, so roughly, okay, so if I say this is 1, this is 2, I can say that probably this is the point where I'm going to touch it. And so this is just a rough estimate. Now with this two values, so we know that it touches the x-axis at the point 1.75, 0. This is the coordinate at which it touches the x-axis, okay, which is here. So all I need to do is now draw a line that connects both these points together. So this is the first point, and this is the second point here. So I'm just going to draw a line. Something along this. Okay, maybe I'll just do a freehand sketch. I think it's easier. Okay, so the line is going to look something like this. Okay, so imagine that it's a straight line. Okay, yeah, so this is basically the line, okay, that represents this equation here. Okay, so that is the first part. Okay, so sort of sketching the line. Now the second part here, the question tells us to find the equation of the line that passes through the point negative 1, 3 and is also parallel to the line above. Okay, so if two lines are parallel, so if we say that two lines are parallel, what does it mean? It means that the gradient is the same. Okay, the gradient is the same. That means the second line, okay, that I'm supposed to find the equation for, is going to have the same slope. Okay, so it can be either above this line or below this line. Okay, so what do we know? We know that it passes through this point here. So what we can do is, since we know that the gradient is going to be the same for both these lines, we can rewrite write the general equation as y equals to mx plus c. And now what do we know? We actually know the gradient, correct? So we can say that y is equals to negative half x plus c. Okay, why negative half? Because we know that this new line has the same gradient as the earlier line. So since the earlier line has a gradient of negative half, this line also has a gradient of negative half. And we also know that it passes through the point minus 1 and 3. So all we need to do now is substitute these xy values into this equation to find c. Okay, so that means 3 is equals to negative half negative 1 plus c, which is equals to half plus c, and c is equals to 5 over 2. Okay, so now that we have found c, we basically have the solution for the equation, which is y is equals to negative half x plus 5 over 2. So this is the equation of the line, okay, that passes through the point negative 1 and 3. So maybe negative 1 is here, maybe 3 is here. Okay, so maybe it passes through this point, okay, and it is going to be parallel to this line. So it's going to be looking something like this. Okay, so this is the equation of the line. Okay, so you can see that basically what we need to do first is to take the current equation, rewrite it into the y equals to mx plus c format. And once you do that, you are able to know the gradient m and the y-intercept c. And once you have this equation, you can also plot it out by looking at the y-intercept and where it also touches the x-axis, the x-intercept. So that will give you the 2 points to draw the line. And the second half of the question says that we have another line that is parallel to this line, which means that the gradient is the same for both these lines. And since the gradient is the same, we just use the current gradient in this new equation. And to find the c, the y-intercept, all we need to do is to substitute a known point. So since we know it passes through the point minus 1 and 3, we substitute this point back into the equation, and then we can find c, and then we get our final answer here. Okay, so this is a very basic question of coordinate geometry that gives you a good idea on how to get started and how to go about solving such questions. Okay, so we will see more in subsequent videos. Thank you.